One of the reasons we wanted to have this podcast and have you as a guest here today is a departure from the norm, because I think that's what 2020 has been for most people. A departure from normal activity, the rigors of the pandemic, not only from a health perspective, the loss of over 210,000 people at this point, millions others infected, but also the impact on economy, the job loss, the change in virtual settings for a lot of people from a job perspective, professional perspective, and also the rigors of homeschooling. So for someone like you and your wife to have had this experience already, what has it been like? Has anything really changed for you all from that perspective, or has it pretty much been status quo?
No, I think that's a great question. I think poverty prepared us for this for this time. Living in survival mode for so long, sort of had us ready to be adaptable. And I think when you're talking about meditation, mindfulness, even the yogic practice, all of it is to help you keep centered, right? To keep you in a space of equanimity, in a time where externalities may have you not be balanced and not be calm. So I'd like to say we were prepared in the sense that we were rooted in ourselves. But even that, we had just recently moved out to a rural area. And that just being in the struggle and the fight so long, I think a lot of things just released. And so even being in sort of this bucolic area and it's nice and it's calm and it's quiet, we still went through it personally and health wise. Just I think a lot of release came out and are still going through it to a degree, but it's all healing. And this is a healing that all of us have accessible to us every day. And that's what the whole practice of mindfulness, whole practice of meditation brings about, is that awareness.
I appreciate you sharing that. So it's funny to hear you talk about kind of survival mode and
Yeah.
stress and that kind of thing. As long as I've known you, you've always been one of the most calm folks that I've ever met. Always, once again, having a sense of equanimity about you. What was it that kind of was the genesis for you that brought you to this place of being able to practice and have that as one of your core values?
Yeah, no, that's a great question too. I think a lot of things I've become aware of the stressors that I was under by the lack of them being there. So that was an interesting thing. So I didn't really know I was poor until I went to college, and I guess there's varying degrees of poor. We were working class, but borderline poor, and so I think that had a lot to do with waking me up to something else being under the surface of who I defined myself as. But then I went through a health crisis about 18 years ago, where essentially doctors wanted to put a pacemaker in my chest, and that was the alarming thing. I think the thing about holistic practices is that as human beings, we learn through experience. So if you were to try to describe sweetness or sugar to someone who never tasted sugar, they don't have a concept of it. So I think for a lot of us in our state of being as humans, that we don't necessarily know what life is because there's no concept for it because you don't know life until you start living it. And so being in touch with nature, having a life or death experience, some of these things bring us into contact with life. And those humans go on to propagate that message much in the same way I did. It builds a lot of compassion in your heart, and you just want to get out and sort of serve your fellow human beings.
I appreciate that. So I thought that that was a really interesting point that you brought up, kind of this bridging between the life or death experience and being in touch with nature. Certainly, we're confronted with both of those things right now here in this moment. If you don't know someone who's personally been impacted by COVID, then you know someone who knows someone who has been, right? What it's also done is it's forced us into nature in a way in which we haven't been forced into nature before. In many cases, the only sense of relief a lot of folks get now is the ability to walk outside and maybe walk their neighborhoods or walk streets in ways that they hadn't before. Also, in addition to that, what we're seeing is kind of this reintroduction of nature to us, the propagation of animals and species that typically are being forced out of their natural habitats are coming back into neighborhoods. Fox, are showing up in large amounts, deer and all these other creatures. What is it that one can do to essentially bridge that sense of, I guess for lack of a better word, an overwhelming sense of dread, whether it be the news that they watch on a regular basis and hearing about this loss of life, whether it be those things from the aspect of political spectrum that I know drives a lot of people crazy, and not being able to kind of detach from that and their own personal stressors. What do you think that people can do as in terms of practice to kind of try to find themselves getting more toward a healthier lifestyle?
Yeah, no, it's such a big question. I think you mentioned it, like COVID sort of made us more aware of nature, but I'd like to add to that and say it made us more aware of our inner nature. And so, with so much being silenced, as soon as that monotony, that pressure of work, 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 traffic, 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 school, 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 all of that pressure got released, and it's sort of like, no, stay home. What we really became aware of was our own inner nature and how much of that was us and how much of it was inundated on us. And so the first thing I would say is turn off the news. Stay informed, but be in control of it. And be in control of it meaning you can do your own research. Oh, I wonder what COVID is doing today, and research that on your own as opposed to having CNN on or not to single out CNN, but any of the 24 news hour cycle networks. And then just paying attention. Like, I don't have any answers. I always try to tell people that I don't have answers. I just have experiences, and that becomes my testimony. So therefore, often I can help guide in terms of just sharing my testimony. But we have to awaken our own sort of sensibility, our own intuition. That's the spiritual mind, if you will. There's the biological mind. That's a function of the brain. But there's an emotional intelligence. That's sort of a function of the heart and feelings. But then there's a metaphysical intelligence, that's your spiritual mind that we know as intuition. And being guided by that helps, so that you're not living off someone else's experiences. So that is what we can do most right now is start to really see what suits us in this time of pressure without pressure.